silence is commanded.
Bailiff, may you bring in the jurors? Thank you. You may be seated. Attorney Saunders, you may continue your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Special Agent Jurgis, you indicated you were, I guess, are assigned to the Major Crimes Bureau.
Yes, I am.
And as part of some of your responsibilities with that bureau, are you tasked with investigating homicides
Yes, I am.
as well as missing persons?
Yes, I am.
And is it common for DCI agents such as yourself to assist local law enforcement?
Yes, we do.
I guess what sort of areas does DCI typically help local law enforcement with?
Specifically to major crimes or in general?
Specifically with major crimes.
So in major crimes, we assist with complex death investigations and critical incidents such as officer-involved shootings, officer-involved deaths, major incidents, mall shootings, church shootings, school shootings, and things that are commonly referred to as cold cases or long-term missing person cases, historical cases involving death.
Okay. Is one of the, I guess, aspects of DCI that your agents have, I guess, more resources and are able to work longer-term cases?
Correct.
Okay. And you would also, one of those things be that you're a multi-jurisdictional agency?
Yes, we have authority in all 72 counties of Wisconsin.
Okay. And you indicated that you have worked with DCI for the past 10 years?
Yes.
Okay. And what are some of your, I guess, specialties with respect to your employment with DCI?
So other than assigned to the Major Crimes Bureau, I am the peer support component coordinator. I'm assigned to the Child Abduction Response Team. I'm an FBI trained negotiator with our SWAT team, and I do many specialized trainings. I teach at the yearly sponsored DCI Death Investigation School. I sit as a board member and officer of the Wisconsin Association of Homicide Investigators, those types of things.
Okay. So you indicated you teach, I think you referred to them as death classes or homicide classes at DCI?
Yes.
Are those programs that local law enforcement throughout the state attend on a regular basis to receive that training?
Yeah, so we sponsor many different trainings, but the one related to death investigation is a 2-week basic death investigation course, and newly assigned detectives or investigators that need initial training in death investigation attend that school, and we host that yearly, and those of us in major crimes instruct at that school.
And have you previously had occasion to work homicide investigations with DCI?
Many.
And prior to your time with DCI as an investigator with Columbia County Sheriff's Office, did you also have training and experience with investigating those types of cases?
Extensive.
Okay. And do you also have training experience with respect to missing persons cases?
Yes, I do.
Have you previously worked such cases?
Yes, I have.
And have you previously investigated cases which, I guess, ultimately turn into what are called no-body homicides?
Yes.
how many times have you worked those types of cases in the past?
I'm currently assigned to 3 right now, and I've worked somewhere just less than 10.
And all of those are in Wisconsin?
Yes.
And the 3 that you're, I guess, currently actively working, is this case one of those cases?
Yes, it is.
Okay. With respect to investigating homicides where there isn't a body located, I guess, how does that differ from a typical homicide investigation, if it does?
Yeah, they're very unique because in a typical homicide investigation, you have what I'll refer to as evidence item number 1, that you have a corpse, you have a deceased individual, and that body is usually sent for autopsy, postmortem examination, and there are things that are determined from the examination of that procedure, such as toxicology and the manner of death and the cause of death. Those are things that are garnered from those procedures. So you usually have those types of things to be able to utilize during the investigation. In a no-body homicide, you don't have that proverbial evidence item number 1 or that corpse.
So then, is it important in investigating those types of cases to first establish whether an individual is deceased?
Yes, absolutely.
And what sort of investigative tactics do you typically employ?
So we delve into the background of the proposed victim. There's many markers that every one of us leave throughout our daily lives. And there's a lot of different resources that we look at in law enforcement to look or to see what the evidence of life is. So we use everything from interviews with next of kin, with coworkers, with friends, acquaintances. We really delve into the victimology and a behavioral analysis, if you will, of that subject's life. And then there are so many things like the databases that we have, the video evidence that we have in everyday life, the telephone evidence, the social media evidence, the employment records, all of those types of things we investigate to determine what that person's life is all about.
And you mentioned the term victimology. Can you define what that means?
Sure. So victimology is the study of victimization, and what you're doing is you're taking information, data, and understanding the victimization that has been done to a victim and what that association is with the victim between offenders, the victim between family members, jobs, media, other groups of people in life.
And to accomplish that, do you employ what's, I guess, referred to as forensic interviews of individuals?
Yes.
And I guess, what are those?
So a forensic interview is, in the most concise way, starting from the earliest point you can with an individual and asking very open-ended questions to understand what an individual's life is all about.
And I guess, how does that differ from a typical interview that a patrol deputy or an investigator with a local agency will conduct?
Yeah, if you do a general interview or a field interview, you have more exact or precise questioning that you perform in relation to a specific event or time. There's something very specific that you're asking questions on. In a forensic interview that was strategized and utilized in this case, you're literally starting from the point where an individual is born. You're asking questions about their childhood, their upbringing, their schooling, their education, their job, their life experiences, their pastimes, their hobbies, their family dynamics, what their likes and dislikes are, and you just really gain an understanding of a person's life through that type of interview.
And I guess then turning to this case, in April of 2015, were you assigned to assist Sergeant Ehrenstein of the Brown County Sheriff's Office with an investigation?
Yes, I was.
And what case did that involve?
It was the Victoria Prokopovitz missing person investigation.
So at the point you get assigned to the case, I guess the information you're receiving is that the disappearance occurred 2 years prior?
That's correct. It happened in 2013.
And we heard from Sergeant Ehrenstein about sort of the 2013 in that time frame, the status of that investigation. At the time you're getting on board on the case, I guess, how would you describe the status of the investigation?
So, in speaking with Sergeant Ehrenstein, the Sheriff's Office, the Brown County Sheriff's Office, had done an extensive, thorough investigation in regards to Mrs. Prokopovitz. They had exhausted nearly all search efforts in that investigation, and they were requesting assistance from DCI for an additional investigator to assist Sergeant Ehrenstein. So as soon as I was assigned that case, based on my training and experience with these types of investigations, I immediately began a death investigation alongside Sergeant Ehrenstein. So I was the case agent on the DCI side, Sergeant Ehrenstein was the case agent on the Brown County side, and both of us, for lack of better terms, became partners, and we blended our unique experiences, training together, and performed a death investigation immediately going forward.
So once the search aspect is completed in a case, is that the time then you sort of then transition into a death investigation?
Exactly, precisely.
And what sort of, I guess, information do you typically begin with respect to the death investigation side of a case?
So Sergeant Ehrenstein had provided me with an entire case file up to that point, and I immediately began to read hundreds of pages of the investigation. I learned what had been done in the investigation, who the individuals involved were, the places that were involved, and I begin to make assessments on additional things that we can do to determine if Mrs. Prokopovitz is dead or alive.
Or one of those things including re-interviewing witnesses?
Yes, so we performed those forensic interviews of the closest or nearest, dearest individuals affiliated or associated with Mrs. Prokopovitz.
And do you also search various databases for these signs of life that you discussed earlier?
Yes, so there were additional things that we did in association or trying to determine Mrs. Prokopovitz's presence of life.
And did that include investigating, I guess, law enforcement sensitive databases?
Yes, so law enforcement has law enforcement sensitive databases, and I worked with a partner agency within DCI, the Wisconsin State Intelligence Center. It's a fusion center, and that fusion center has access to very powerful databases that can run additional queries and records. And there were several reports that are law enforcement sensitive that extrapolated or after we queried Mrs. Prokopovitz, those databases obtain information from public sources, and it's combined in a very lengthy, in lengthy reports. So the types of things that these databases search for are telephone records, court records, credit bureau information.
So we'll walk through, and we heard some of those from Sergeant Ehrenstein, and you utilize those databases to essentially search for signs of life.
Yes.
Okay, and that included checks with DHS and ICE for traveling out of the country?
Yes, so we turned to our federal partners, and I had Mrs. Prokopovitz queried with the Department of Homeland Services, as well as Immigration and Custom Enforcement. So what we were searching for is if Mrs. Prokopovitz ever had a passport, and if she ever traveled in or out of the country utilizing that passport, and we specifically checked for out-of-country travels by land, by air, and then by maritime access.
And you also utilized, I guess I should ask, in all of those searches with respect to out-of-the-country travels were negative?
That's correct. Mrs. Prokopovitz never possessed a valid passport, and she had never traveled by any mode of transportation out of the country.
Sure, and you also investigated, I guess, local contacts with law enforcement in this country, is that correct?
That's correct.
And essentially, is there some sort of program that law enforcement agencies nationwide use where if an individual has contact with police, that is logged? Is that right?
Correct. So the National Crime Information Center is a national level sponsored or run database by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and any contacts with individuals that check at the national level are documented, maintained in that database. So we did an NCIC offline search for the subjects in this case.
And there were no results?
There were no results for any sort of law enforcement contact with Mrs. Prokopovitz.
Okay. And you also utilized a database called NamUs, is that correct?
Correct.
And briefly, what is that agency or database?
So it's a database. NamUs refers to National Missing and Missing Individuals throughout the United States. It's a very powerful, free, unified database that is made up of unidentified persons, missing persons, and unclaimed persons. There are many, many resources that comprise this resource. It's affiliated with VICAP, the Violent Apprehension Program with the FBI, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and any individual that is discovered in the United States that is missing, dead, or unidentified this database is a central repository for all of those individuals. So if any jurisdiction across the United States has any missing, unidentified, unclaimed person, they automatically check that database. And a mini description of the case and the individuals that are entered in there, along with their DNA and many other profiles, such as scars, marks, tattoos, dental records, many different kinds of records, whatever's associated with that specific missing, unidentified, unclaimed person. That's all held, maintained in that database. So we search that database for Mrs. Prokopovitz.
And in utilizing that search, you did not return any log of her being identified ever.
Mrs. Prokopovitz is not in that database.
And you utilize essentially dozens of databases across numerous state, local, and federal agencies in conducting these searches,
Yes.
and actually international agencies as well.
Yes, I did.
And those checks have been run, I guess, throughout your 6 years investigating this case?
Up until several days ago even.
And still there has not been any indication that, I guess, the signs of life that you discussed earlier?
There are no signs of life of Mrs. Prokopovitz. She is no longer in society.
Throughout, I guess, the 6 years, you indicated you worked essentially as a partner with Sergeant Ehrenstein. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you, I guess, were involved in many of the aspects that Sergeant Ehrenstein testified to earlier last week and this week?
Yes.
Okay. And did that include the, we saw yesterday a video where you and Sergeant Ehrenstein conducted a walkthrough or a ride-along with Mr. Prokopovitz. You remember that?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And were you the one who was physically filming that encounter?
Yes, I did.
And what was we kind of heard about the significance of that. I want to talk about the period of time where Mr. Prokopovitz drove through the Maplewood Shell gas station. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And Sergeant Ehrenstein outlined the importance of that. I guess in your interactions and observing Mr. Prokopovitz doing this, what was your impression of his recall with respect to traveling that path on that date?
It was clear, it was convincing, and he was certain. He was very descriptive about the exact pathway and route that he took through that location.
And I guess that was one of the purposes of doing the walkthrough, is to attempt to verify this story that he was out looking for Victoria.
We do reenactments in all major cases such as this, and that was the purpose of this.
Okay. And throughout these 6 years, did you have contact with James Prokopovitz?
Yes, I did.
And just for the record, can you point out what he's wearing and where he's sitting for us?
Mr. Prokopovitz is seated at the defense counsel between Mr. D'Angelo, his attorney, and the paralegal. He's wearing a gray shirt and a blue mask.
I'd ask the record to reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will so indicate.
And did you have cause then in those 6 years to interview Mr. Prokopovitz?
Several times.
When you say several times, is this a situation where law enforcement's having contact with Mr. Prokopovitz on a daily basis?
No.
So in your 6 years on the case, I guess, how many interviews or contacts did you have with Mr. Prokopovitz?
I think it was approximately 6.
So about once or twice a year?
Correct.
Okay. At any point during that time frame, would the interactions you had with Mr. Prokopovitz be at his request?
Never.
Was that always law enforcement initiated?
Every time.
You worked the case with Sergeant Ehrenstein. Did you have contact with the family of Victoria Prokopovitz on a regular basis?
Yes, I did.
Specifically her daughters and son Wesley?
Yes.
And during those times, in your 6 years investigating the case, would they ask for updates on the case?
Very regularly.
Was that ever something that Mr. Prokopovitz asked you of?
He never did so.
With respect to, you indicated you had contact and interviewed Mr. Prokopovitz. Do you also have contact with Catherine Friday?
Yes, I did.
And was there a time in December of 2015 when you and Sergeant Ehrenstein spoke with Mr. Prokopovitz and Catherine Friday at her residence in Curtis?
Yes, we did.
And Curtis, where is that located?
I believe that's Clark County, Wisconsin. Yeah. Clark County.
Is that a little bit west of Wausau?
Yes, it is.
Sort of between Wausau and Eau Claire?
Yes.
And I guess during the course of your interactions with them, did they indicate to you sort of the origin as to how they became in a relationship?
Yes, they had explained that.
And what information are you getting from them?
So, Mrs. Friday stated that she had went to a casino and she was playing a slot machine, and she had looked over next to her, observed a male subject who she didn't recognize immediately, but then the more she saw him or paid attention to him, she realized that it was someone that she was familiar with from 30 years ago, and she then knew or realized that it was James Prokopovitz.
And Mrs. Friday was giving you that information. Is that also a version that Mr. Prokopovitz provided law enforcement as well?
Yes, it was.
Did law enforcement utilize any resources to investigate the veracity of that information?
Yes, we did.
And what was the importance, I guess, of determining the veracity of how they came to become in a relationship?
So when we heard that information, it didn't seem believable. It seemed unlikely that two individuals after 30 years would have this chance encounter. So we were inquisitive about that. We asked questions about that. And in order to corroborate that, we began to request or ascertain what other individuals may have known about that or may have been affiliated with that. So after Ms. Friday informed us that she had been to the casino in Wittenberg with friends, we immediately tried to determine who those friends were so that we could try to corroborate this information.
Okay. And I guess in investigating a death investigation, is it important to determine any motives that any individuals may have?
Yes, it is.
And is it important to determine whether any individuals in a case are providing law enforcement with accurate information?
Yes, it is.
So in investigating, I guess, how Kathy and Mr. Prokopovitz came into a relationship, did you attempt to interview some of their friends?
Yes, we did.
And did that involve traveling on multiple occasions to the Wausau area?
Yes, we did.
And spending significant amount of law enforcement resources in investigating and following up and attempting to verify that story?
For a couple of years.
You first, I guess, you got on the case in 2015, and this was a story that you were investigating for several years?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you indicated you spoke with several of Catherine's friends regarding the incident. Is that because they were providing information that she had gone to the casino with those friends?
Yes, she provided information that she went there with friends, so we tried to identify who those friends were and attempted contact with them.
And at that time, she wasn't providing you that information?
Correct. She refused to identify the individuals that she went to, and that was another suspicious thing that we felt was pertinent.
So apart from talking to those individuals, it took law enforcement resources to first identify who those people would have been?
Correct.
Special Agent Jurgis, subsequent to, I guess, your initial involvement in the investigation, do you recall attending some evidentiary hearings with respect to the disappearance of Victoria Prokopovitz on May 8th of 2019?
Yes, I do.
And that occurred in the Brown County Courthouse,
Yes, it did.
where we are now? Not in this physical courtroom, but in this building?
In this facility, but not this courtroom.
Yeah. And is that located in Brown County, Wisconsin?
Yes, it is.
And were Kathy Friday and James Prokopovitz issued a subpoena to appear at those hearings?
Yes, they were.
Do you recall the date that was?
On May 3rd of that year, I utilized, or I coordinated resources through Clark County Sheriff's Office to have them each personally served.
And are you aware whether Kathy and Jim arrived together?
They did arrive together, yes.
Okay. And those were hearings that were held in front of a judge in this county?
Yes.
And you were physically present for those hearings?
Yes, I was.
And you were physically present for their testimony?
Yes, I was.
With respect to Ms. Friday, prior to her testimony, did you observe that she was administered an oath?
Yes, she was admonished by the court.
And was she also, I guess, Mr. Prokopovitz, similarly, was he administered an oath prior to testifying?
The exact same oath.
And those were oaths consistent with the oath you took today in testifying?
They were even more detailed than the one I took this morning.
Sure. And in the course of that testimony, was information testified to with respect to that story about meeting at the Wittenberg Casino?
Yes.
Okay. And that was testified to during the course of those hearings?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Your Honor, Exhibits 109 and 110 have been marked. They are certified transcripts of the proceedings. With respect to those evidentiary hearings, Special Agent Jurgis just testified to, I'd move the admission of those exhibits and ask to publish in the manner discussed previously.
No objection, Your Honor.
109, 110 are admitted. You may publish.
Thank you. Special Agent Jurgis, I'm going to start with exhibit number 109. And does that appear to be the transcript of Ms. Friday's testimony?
Yes, it does.
And, Your Honor, we're going to be reading three portions of this transcript for brevity and then the relevant portions with respect to this testimony. That being on page 3, line 2, to page 7, line 22, page 26, line 17, to page 32, line 8, and then page 39, lines 7 through 19. And Special Agent Jurgis, I'll read the question portion and the comments from the court, and if you could read the answers as we go along.
Yes, sir.
And I'll actually begin on line 17 on page 3. So at this time, the state would call Kathy Friday to the stand. The court. Ms. Friday, come right in. Then if you'll just go on the other side of the railing and come up to the witness chair, please.
Okay.
Face the clerk and raise your right hand. Catherine Friday, called as a witness herein, having been first duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. The court. You can be seated, ma'am. Then make yourself as comfortable as you can in the witness chair. You'll note there's a microphone right there. It's adjustable, so you can move it any way that's comfortable for you to speak your answers into it so everybody can clearly hear your testimony today, okay?
Okay.
Then to begin, would you state your first name and your last name and spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Catherine Friday. K-A-T-H-R-Y-N, comma, F-R-I-D-A-Y.
The court. Ms. Friday, you are advised that you're appearing on a John Doe proceeding before me. I'm Judge Donald Zeidmulder. I'm the circuit judge in Brown County. Under the law of the state, I have the power to subpoena witnesses and compel testimony before this John Doe. You are directed to answer all questions put to you, remembering your oath or affirmation. If you believe that a truthful answer to any question asked of you would incriminate you, that is, subject you to criminal prosecutions, you may refuse to answer the question on grounds that may incriminate you. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand that your answers to questions put to you may be used against you by this John Doe or in another legal proceeding?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you testify falsely, you may be criminally prosecuted for perjury or false swearing committed during your testimony before this John Doe proceeding?
Yes.
Under Wisconsin law, several types of confidential communications are privileged. These include communications between spouses, between healthcare provider and patient, between attorney and client, and between a person and a member of the clergy. Do you understand that you may refuse to answer any question asked of you if it would require you to reveal conversations which are privileged by law?
Yes.
Do you also understand that there are no other lawful grounds upon which you may refuse to answer questions before this John Doe?
Yes.
You are also advised that you have the right to have an attorney present with you during your testimony. Further, you may confer with your attorney during your testimony. However, your attorney would not be allowed to ask questions, cross-examine other witnesses, or argue before me. Do you understand?
Yes.
You are appearing this morning without an attorney, is that correct?
That's correct.
You understand that Ms. Lemkuhl and Mr. Saunders represent the state of Wisconsin and may not and cannot act as your attorney.
Yes.
Now, if you wish to consult with an attorney and consider whether you want an attorney present with you, if you make that request to me at this time, then I would continue these proceedings and order you back on another day. Do you wish to consult with an attorney or have an attorney present?
No.
Has anyone made any threats or promises to get you to give up your right to consult with an attorney or have an attorney appear with you during this John Doe?
No.
Pursuant to sections 906.15 sub 1 and sub 3, you are hereby ordered not to communicate with another witness regarding your testimony until this hearing has been completed or upon further notice of the court. Do you understand?
Yes.
Your testimony at this proceeding will be recorded word for word and will be transcribed. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm now directing the clerk to hand you a copy of these admonitions. Do you acknowledge that you received a copy?
Yes.
All right, your witness, Ms. Lemkuhl. Then turning to page 26. Sorry, are you there?
I'm on page 26.
Okay. We'll begin on line 17. Question. So around the time that this happens, you're talking to Jim, and you're dating this in May of 2013. The first correspondence you have is this phone call. And then did you talk to him on the phone after that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And was he calling you, or did you get his number by that time?
I want to say I had his number. I probably asked him for it that first day. I don't remember for sure. I know I did call him. Now I don't remember when it was because I hadn't heard from him for a while and just wanted to know, for sure if they had found her. Was it a week later? I don't remember.
You just recall you were having a lot of phone contact with him then around that time, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And at some point then, do you see him in person?
I probably didn't see him in person until maybe July, my guess is.
And do you recall when you saw him in July, where was that?
The first time I saw him was at the casino, the Ho-Chunk Casino in Wittenberg.
I guess I should make the record clear. When you say the first time in July, you're talking July 2013?
Correct.
And you see him, the Ho-Chunk Casino, that's in Wittenberg?
Yes.
Had you been there before that date?
Yes.
Okay. When you see him there, well, how are you there? How did you get to the casino?
I believe I probably drove.
And where are you when you see Jim? Inside the casino, outside the casino?
Inside.
And what are you doing?
Unfortunately, playing the slots.
Okay. Is it like the slot machines?
Right. Now it's a push button, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're at the casino, you're playing the slots. How did you come in contact with Jim?
I was playing and somebody had come and sat down alongside of me. And the person kept on, looking over to me. And I wasn't doing very good on the machine. So I got up and moved, which I do walk a lot in the casino. And then pretty soon, I don't know how long after, maybe a half an hour, I don't remember, the same person came and sat down alongside and looked at me. And I thought it was a little bit strange, but then he said, "Are you Kathy?" And I said, "Yes." And that's when he told me who he was. I would not have recognized him.
You hadn't seen him in a while?
Right.
Let me ask you, when you were there on that date, and I guess I don't know the rules of all these casinos, were you drinking alcohol?
No.
Okay, so you're sober, right?
Yes.
You've got your faculties about you on what was going on that date?
Yes.
And do you know if he was drinking alcohol on that date?
I don't remember.
Okay. So you've been talking to him on the phone before this date, right?
Correct.
But it's your testimony here today that you didn't make plans to meet him on that date?
Correct.
Okay. And was Jim there with anybody on that date?
I don't know.
Okay. Were you there with anybody on that date?
I was probably with a couple of gals. As for who was with me, I don't remember.
Let's talk about who. Which friends had you gambled with in the past?
A couple of gals that I used to work with.
Where were you working at that time?
At that time, I was not working.
Okay.
I hadn't worked since 2010.
So where was the workplace that you had these friends from?
Associated Bank.
Okay. Which branch and where?
I was at the Abbotsford office.
So who were the friends from Associated Bank that you would sometimes gamble with?
There was a Diane. As for her last name, I don't remember what her last name was. There was a Joyce, and I think there was one more. Gosh, I can't remember what the other gal's name was.
Now, so at the time that you see him at the Ho Chunk Casino, you indicated you don't know that he was there with anyone. You bump into each other, you've been in touch, this is an old friend, you've been talking to him. What do the two of you do when you see each other? Do you go have coffee, hang out? What do you do?
At the casino?
Yeah.
We didn't do anything. We talked for a few minutes and then left.
Did you hug?
I left.
Did you hug him?
I don't remember.
Okay, so you're seeing this guy, he tells you who he is, and although he's aged, you haven't seen him in a while. You recognize him?
I didn't recognize him that day.
Oh, you didn't recognize him?
No.
But when he says who he is, you believe that's who he is, that he's Jim Prokopovitz?
Yes, and I told him, I said, quote, "I would not have recognized you," end quote. And he says, quote, "I did you haven't changed," end quote.
Okay, so you meet up, you talk a few minutes, and what do you do then?
I left.
Okay, and so did you leave with your friends then?
Yes, I believe we did.
Okay, and what did Jim do?
I don't know.
Okay, so you just talk. At the time that you talked, do you agree to talk or meet up again?
That day, I don't believe we did. Again, I don't remember what we talked about. It was just a short conversation.
And then if you could flip to page 39, line 7.
I'm on page 39.
So around that time now, when you're meeting at the restaurant, what time frame, if you, in July of 2013, bump into him at the Ho Chunk Casino, and again, that bumping into him, you didn't pre-plan that. Is that right?
That's correct.
As you sit here today under oath, you don't remember if you testified you did go there alone, correct, on that day?
No, I believe I was with a couple of friends. I I don't think that was the time that I went. I went a couple of times by myself, but I don't believe I was by myself that day.
Thank you. Now I'll provide you exhibit number 110. Does that appear to be a transcript of the testimony of James Prokopovitz, the defendant?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, we'll read three parts from the transcript. It's page 72, line 25, through page 78, line 23, page 91, line 17, through page 96, line 9, and page 121, line 22, through page 122, line 17. And Special Agent, just before starting, we just read with Catherine Friday, you referred to it as the admonition that the judge gave prior to her testifying,
Yes,
and was a consistent admonition given to Mr. Prokopovitz as well?
near verbatim.
Okay. And there was a form that was essentially read, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was similarly read to Mr. Prokopovitz, so we won't read it again.
Okay.
And Mr. Prokopovitz, again, he was under oath during this testimony.
Yes, he was.
And this was May 8th of 2019?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Turning to page 72.
I'm on page 72, sir.
Okay. Question. So, Jim, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 49. And before we had the break, I had asked you about a settlement check and a letter that you had sent.
What line are you on, sir?
I'm now on page 73.
Answer, yes.
Question. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And this is a letter we actually heard testimony from Kathy that she helped you draft, right?
I don't remember if she did or not.
Okay. But your name is on the bottom?
My name is on the bottom, yes.
And this is a search, or in the content of it, it said that you were told the searchers covered a 7-mile radius?
Apparently, I was told that. I don't know. It would have been, yeah, it probably would have been 7 miles, 6, 7 miles, somewhere in there.
Now, when you had talked about the fact that Victoria was known to sometimes go on walks, she has never walked for 7 miles. Would you agree?
No, no.
Okay. In fact, would you agree that she probably didn't walk more than a mile?
Oh, there's times she walked more than a mile.
Like how many miles?
Depend what kind of mood she was in.
Sure. What's the longest walk you were aware of?
I was aware of probably a couple of miles up and back.
So, like 2 miles?
Yeah, 2 miles, 2.5. You never really knew. I mean, I didn't know where she went most of the time when she'd go for a walk.
But you would agree around the time she went missing, she wasn't as mobile.
No, she wasn't quite as mobile as she usually was.
Well, we've had people describe that she's kind of a big homebody.
Well, towards the last couple years, she sort of turned into a homebody. Before that, she used to go out with girls, you know, the girls. She used to go out by herself. She used to go out all by herself, and I didn't think nothing of it. I mean, that was before we were married. She'd go and come home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Not all the time, but I knew she was. I wasn't married to her, and I didn't know her.
You would agree if Wes and Stacey and everyone was saying the last 2 to 3 years of her life, she was pretty sticking close to home?
Yes, she was.
She didn't have a car, even, of her own to drive around at that time?
No.
And when you spoke to law enforcement in one of your interviews, you kind of referred to the fact that she had a gimpy leg. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sometimes it would be gimpy, and sometimes it wouldn't. I don't know.
But it was one specific leg she had problems with?
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but she always complained, quote, "Oh, my leg is bad," end quote.
On the night she went missing, you didn't hear her leave on your own.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see her leave on her own.
I didn't see her leave.
And you had no knowledge of her leaving that house?
No.
Also, around that time, she wasn't even using her phone much, was she?
No.
In fact, if her cell record showed she hadn't even made a phone call in the last 4 days of her life, that might sound right to you?
It's very possible.
She wasn't making a lot of calls to other people?
No.
In fact, around that time, I think you said, and others, that she really didn't even have many outside friends left?
No, she didn't.
You referred to a friend that used to work with that she used to work with at the grocery store, Sarah Youngs. Do you remember her?
Who? Question mark.
Sarah?
Sarah. Yeah.
And there were times she had picked up Vicky to drive her around?
It's possible she did. Yes. I know her and Sarah were good friends.
Yep. And that's one person you identified and Sarah confirmed. She didn't really have a lot of other friends, did she?
No.
And I'm talking about the time frame when she went missing.
Before she went missing, question mark?
Right.
For how long before? For the last about 3 years or so before that, she didn't really care. A year ago, she'd go out once in a while. She didn't mind going out. She'd go to Wicca's. We'd go to Wicca's once in a while.
But you always drove her?
Yes.
So, and again, the last 2 to 3 years of her life, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't know her to make plans to travel out of the country?
Not that I knew of. No.
Had you ever heard she had even been on an airplane?
No.
She never was making plans to travel out of state to visit a friend?
Not that I know of.
And really, around that time, she was only leaving the house when she would go on one of these walks you're talking about.
Yep.
Or she got a ride from you or Wes or somebody.
Yes.
It's not likely on that day that she went missing that anybody picked her up and took her away from that house.
I don't know.
Well, she didn't have any contact with people, right?
Yes. I don't know.
You would agree it's probably unlikely.
It's probably unlikely, but
In fact, when she first went missing, you thought it was more plausible she walked away and killed herself, right?
yes, I did.
But then you later told police you were now thinking maybe she had just run off with somebody?
I started thinking that too.
Sure, so who would she have run off with?
I got no idea.
And if she walked anywhere from that residence in the last 6 years and killed herself, we would have found a body.
I assume you would have. Yes.
And then turning to page 91.
I'm on page 91.
Line 17. Question. When did you first have contact with Kathy?
I don't remember when it was when I called her. I called her after I ran into her at the casino. And that was, I don't remember.
So you typically would call her on her birthday, is that right?
Yep. I knew when her birthday was.
Yep.
I didn't know exactly. I knew it was in May.
Okay.
And every 3, 4, or 5 years, I'd happen to think about her. Just picked up the phone and say, quote, "Hi, how are you? Happy birthday," end quote. I know it's in May, but I don't know when.
You thought about her because you liked her, didn't you?
No, we were friends from 40 years before her husband and I ran together on 29. He drove a truck and I drove a truck. Run into him all the time. Got to talk to her on the CB. They came out to our house when we lived out in the country for a rodeo in Pulaski one year. Her and her husband and the kids. Just friends.
So do you remember being interviewed by a private investigator in this case who came out to your house, a Larry Warwick?
Could be.
Do you remember telling him that you called Kathy once a year?
No, I did not call her once a year.
Okay. So is there anybody else in your world that you would call every couple of years consistently on their birthday?
No, just her, pretty much. Anybody else's birthday, I don't really hardly know, any strangers that I remember their birthdays, and some of the guys that I knew their birthdays are dead already. So I'm not going to call them on their birthday.
What about family members? Do you call them regularly?
No,
But you called Kathy on her birthday?
about once every 3 or 4 or 5 years, yes, during May usually.
So was it within like 2 weeks of Vicky going missing that you called Kathy?
I don't remember when it was. I think it was in June. I don't remember. I don't remember if I met her first at the casino.
Okay, before calling?
I met her at the casino, and then we talked for a while. And then I called her again. I don't know when it was. I don't remember how long apart. We met again for coffee and stuff. And then we started seeing each other pretty regularly from July or August on
Okay.
weekends.
So even by what you're saying, within 2 months of Vicky disappearing, you're seeing her regularly?
July, end of June, July. I don't remember exactly when it was.
If there are casino records in your name and her name, June 21st at the Best Western,
That would have been it. Okay.
so that's before 4th of July, right?
Yeah. All right. 21st.
All right. If Kathy indicates that you called her in May around her birthday, which was only 2 weeks after Vicky was missing,
Yes, I did.
okay, so Kathy would be right?
Yes.
All right. So within 2 weeks of Vicky missing, you're in contact with Kathy, and you guys do start exchanging phone calls.
Yes.
All right. And in fact, there's a lot of phone calls.
Yes, there were.
So you had her phone number. Did you give her your phone number?
Yes, I think she had it.
Think she had it? Okay. If she said she didn't have it before that date, would she be wrong?
I don't remember if she had it or knew it or if I gave it to her. I couldn't tell you.
All right. And you had been in a relationship with Vicky, but you had not been sexually active for some time with her before she went missing? Would you agree with that?
Yes, because of the surgery and everything else.
Sure. So how long had it been before she went missing?
Before she went missing, question mark?
Yeah.
Well, when did she have the surgery? That was
July, June?
June, July, before that sometime.
So maybe almost a year?
Could very well have been a year.
How long did it take between you having your initial contact with Kathy in May before you were sexually active with her?
June, July,
So a month or two after you met her.
at least a month. Yes.
And if casino records showed you guys regularly meeting at this Best Western, kind of halfway in between,
Yes, that's what we agreed.
June, July,
Yup, that's right. Wouldn't be lying.
okay. That's consistent with what you're saying, that you started seeing her then like weekly?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at the time that this is all happening, does your family know about it?
I don't know if they did or not, to tell you the truth.
Then turning to page 121, line 22.
I'm on 121.
Line 22, question, what about the sludge pond?
Sludge pond? No.
You have access to the sludge pond.
Yes, I have access to it.
And back then, you had access to that pond.
Yes, I did.
You would be able to go and access that even in the middle of the night.
Yeah?
Did you do that?
Nope.
And how tall are you?
5'10".
In Victoria, she was just weighing around 100 pounds at the time she went missing, wasn't she?
I don't know what she weighed. Right around 105, 110.
How much do you weigh? You're a lot bigger.
Back then, weighed about 230.
You could pick her up?
Probably could.
Thank you. Special Agent, as you were listening on May 8th to the testimony, was the information they were testifying to, particularly with respect to the circumstances of how they started a relationship, Was that consistent with the information that you were being told throughout your 6 years on the case?
Yes.
Okay. And subsequent to those hearings, did you interview Kathy and Jim regarding the statements made under oath?
Yes.
Okay. And were they confronted about the fact that investigators believed the implausibility of the Wittenberg casino story?
Both of them were.
And what did they indicate?
After the hearing,
Yes.
one or both of them.
Let's talk about Kathy first.
Okay?
They were interviewed separately?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And did they ultimately admit to lying under oath?
Both of them did.
Okay. And you conducted with Mr. Prokopovitz, was that recorded?
Yes, it was.
And where did that occur?
At the Brown County Sheriff's Office, Brown County, Wisconsin.
And this was on May 8th of 2019?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And Special Agent Irgus, did you review a recording of that interview prior to testifying today?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'd be moving 111 at this point. It's going to be the recording of that interview, and I'll have Special Agent Irgus identify it after publishing.
No objection, Your Honor.
111 is admitted. You may publish. Again, just for the record, this was a redacted copy. We'll give the times that are played to counsel, and I'm pressing play at this point.
Jim? Yeah. Can I come in? Yeah. That was it. Let me sit down here. Can I go over there? Hey, we just real quick, I'm sorry to have to make, is this right? Yeah. Sorry I made you wait, but we just got done with Kathy. Kathy has a small request. She said her lips are really dry, she'd like some chapstick, and that you have it. Yeah, that's in the cream. Is she here too? Can I give it to her? Is it okay to give it to her?
Yes, give her the wallet and everything else.
Okay.
Is she getting locked up too? What?
Hold on. I'd ask you how you doing today. It's pointless to ask that, right? You're under arrest. You're detained. Okay? We want to talk about a couple things going forward, okay? I want to tell you about Kathy, and some of those things, but before I do that, I have to read you your rights because you're in custody, okay? If at any time you don't understand the question, you don't want to answer, you want an attorney, you want to stop, you want to tell us to get out, you want to tell me to get out, Roman to get out, whatever, okay? But I have to read you your rights, okay? You all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to consult with a lawyer before questioning and have a lawyer present with you during questioning. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you at public expense before or during questioning, if you so wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you have the right to stop the questioning and remain silent at any time you wish, and the right to ask for and have a lawyer at any time you wish, including during the questioning. Do you understand the rights?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can we chat?
Okay, one question.
Can we talk?
Yeah. Oh, and one question I want to ask.
Okay.
If, say, halfway through this, I say, no, I think I better get an attorney.
Then you tell us, and we stop and we leave.
And what about, say, 2 days from now or something? Somebody stop.
If you want to talk to us, you got to write us a note and say, hey, I want to talk to Roman, I want to talk to Jay.
I mean, if I talk to you tonight, you would ask whatever you want.
Yep.
And then 2 or 3 days from now, you're talking to me again, and I say I want an attorney.
Then you get an attorney.
All right, I'll talk to you tonight.
Whenever you want the attorney, you get the attorney.
I'll talk to you. I got nothing to lose.
You want to
I'll
talk?
talk.
Okay. So what I need you to do, Jim, I just need you to sign right there. And when you see me look at my phone, it's because that's my clock. Kathy's been placed under arrest. Just listen, okay? Just listen to me. Promise? Just hear me out. Okay? Now, when she took the stand, she got the same admonishment that you did from the judge. Remember the judge?
Yeah.
Read you kind of the rules of the court, kind of like what I did. Just read you kind of what your rights are, how this is going to work, okay? She was brought here too, okay? Roman and I just came done, we just got done with her, and we talked to her for a long time. She said a lot of stuff on the stand, okay? We know that there are some things that weren't true. We know that, okay? She has set the record straight on some stuff. This is no bullshit.
All right.
Okay? She's sorry. She's regretful. She's crying. She's taking some responsibility. And all I can tell you, Jim, is I don't know who it is down the road. I don't know if it's a judge. I don't know if it's a jury. I don't know who it is. All I can tell you is, from my experience, they like to see contrition. So if I make a bad choice or a bad decision, and I lied and lied and lied, and I lied for 6 years, and I finally say, okay, that's it. I got to stop the nonsense. I think a big burden has been lifted from her, and I think she's explained some things, and we have some understanding of some things. Okay? So, she wants to see you. Okay? That's against my better judgment. Okay? Roman said, hey, you did the right thing, Kathy, we'll let you see Jim. Okay? This can't be a long sit-down thing or anything like that.
Is she going to jail too?
We'll talk about that, okay?
Her animals, there's no way to take care of her animals.
We understand, okay? But she made her choices and decisions too, Jim.
Yes, I know.
She heard the same admonishment as you. When the judge says you can't lie,
I know.
then you can't lie.
I know.
It just gets you jammed up, and the snowball, it gets bigger. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. So when we're done here, if you play nice with me, we'll kind of let you see Kathy real quick, and we'll let you know how things are going to play out here. Okay, but that depends upon some certain things here, okay?
Yeah.
What do you think about all this?
She had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Absolutely. Nothing to do with anything. I didn't do anything to
What
Vicky.
What are you thinking about this? I don't care about her. We're done with her. Okay? We're done with her. She's taken her responsibility, and we'll go on from there.
Whatever you want, ask me questions. I'll tell you anything I can to straighten something out. But if she goes to jail, I'm not going to be a happy camper.
Hold on here. She made some choices.
I know she did, but I'm still not going to be a very happy camper.
And she said that you did that for her, some things for her. She's taking responsibility, so just don't blow your staff. You gotta, just let's stay even keeled here, okay?
I'll try.
I know, and I'll give you as much space as I can, but you can't be blowing up on me. We have to be rational and respectful, Jim. Have I ever misled you?
No, you haven't.
All right, and I'm not going to start now. There's nothing worth it, okay? When I listened to you today, Jim, I'm going to call her Wendy. Okay, she's the deputy district attorney. Okay. Every time I listened to her ask you a question where it was going to elicit a response that wasn't going to paint you in a positive light, okay? Every single time, there was tens of questions today. Every single time, it was a question where it wasn't going to paint you in a good light. Let's just take a domestic years and years ago, or let's take the gun incident, whichever one you want, okay? Every time you answered, no, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, it wasn't like that, they're lying, okay? I'm not the judge, okay, I'm just the fact finder. I sat there like the judge and like Roman and everyone in the courtroom, okay? Jim, all of that stuff is not believable. There's other facts that the investigation knows, okay, which showed what the truth is. So and all I'm saying is, I'm not perfect either, Jim. But I have to take responsibility if I make a poor choice or a bad decision. We've all had to do that. So all I'm saying, Jim, is there were times today I know you weren't honest. Because we know the truth about a few of those things. Okay? So, you are in the driver's seat right now. Okay? I don't know where you want this to go. But if I were you, and you want to control some of your destiny, you got to do that now. See what you ask me? I'll try. It's not about what I'm going to ask you, Jim. It's about what the truth is.
And everything that was testified today was not the truth.
No, not everything.
And that's gonna get you jammed up on the small end. And the small stuff leads to something really, really big. Vicky's dead. Vicky's dead.
Okay, if you say she's dead, she's dead. I don't know.
Vicky's dead.
I don't know. I don't know. That is the truth.
This whole case has a lot of ripples. And you can see that.
You know, it is.
One of the ripples is one of the loves of your life. She is also in custody. Is it worth that, Jim? She should be home, watering her donkeys, letting the dog out, feeding the peacocks. She is a mess. And you have to admit, Jim, she's involved in this because of you. I'm not blaming, that's just the facts.
Yes,
And
I know.
she has come to that realization now.
Okay. All right.
You have to be truthful and honest, Jim, or whatever you want to salvage here, I mean, you are going to lose the entire world.
What do you want? What do you want me to say? What?
It's not, no, it's not.
What do you want to ask?
It's not what I want you to say.
No, what do
It's
you want?
what the truth is.
I'll tell you the truth if you ask me the questions.
All right. Let's talk about one thing. The meeting at the casino did not happen.
No, it did not.
Okay.
It was at the truck stop.
So tell me about that.
It was at the truck stop.
So so Vicky goes missing.
Yep.
How long after Vicky goes missing does it take you to reach out to make contact?
I don't know.
With Kathy?
6 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know.
Here's another thing.
To the best of my knowledge.
Here's another thing, because it just came to mind, because I think you did something that you were doing today in court. I have all of your interviews right here. I've been studying and studying and studying and studying, okay? The inconsistencies, the patterns, the lies, all that kind of stuff, right? You lied to the court. Bottom line is that's going to get you jammed up. Judge told you not to lie.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Today you told Yen a whole bunch of different stuff. Every time Wendy asks you a question, you're trying to make yourself a moving target. And it's just, it's making you a bigger, you're making yourself a bigger deal. Don't do that, Jim. I am pleading with you. This has all been dragged out because of certain actions by you, by Kathy, right? Okay? It doesn't have to be that way. Let's get this done in one package. Because every time we prove something else that's different, wrong, it's going to have bad consequences for you, okay?
Yeah.
All right. I just want to have that understanding.
I understand.
I'm pleading with you to do the right thing.
I'll do the right thing. I got to clear her.
To the best of your recollection, Vicky goes missing. Okay?
Yeah.
To the best of your recollection, truthfully, how long does it take you to reach out to your friend Kathy?
5, 6 weeks? I don't remember.
All right, 5, 6 weeks.
Somewhere in there.
I'm going to write it down. So I have 5, 6 weeks.
Maybe longer. But somewhere in
5, 6 weeks plus or minus.
Yeah.
Okay? If that's the truth, I'm with you. Okay? You called Kathy.
Yes, I did.
You're going through a bad time.
Yeah.
You've been sweet on Kathy for a long time.
No,
Good,
I'm sweet.
well, good friend.
Good friends.
Whatever, okay? You call her up. How does that work?
I called her up.
Do you have the phone number?
Yeah.
So you know how to get in touch with her?
Yeah, I know how to get
Okay, go ahead.
And I said, hi, how you doing? She said, I know it's your birthday this month, or what was your birthday in May? They said, happy birthday, how's everything going? Well, not good.
Okay.
And she told me about Marv dying, passing away, that guy who was living with her for 30 years. Then he had heart surgery or whatever. She asked me how things were going. I said, not good. Vicky disappeared. And she felt, here I'm telling him about Marv, and his wife took off on him.
So she felt crappy about
She
that?
felt crappy about it.
Okay.
So I don't remember if it was that phone call, it may have been. I said, how about we meet in Wittenberg or something, halfway, have coffee and just talk about it.
Sure.
No, I don't remember when it was decided when we were gonna meet or where we were going. We knew it was gonna be at the truck stop.
Fair.
I said, I'll be parked up there in that blue pickup truck that I had from work. I said, I'll be
Was she
alongside.
familiar with that?
No,
Okay.
no, she didn't, never saw it before, had no idea what it was, what it looked like, what.
Okay.
I said, there'll be a fuel tank in the back, you'll see, and probably pretty dirty. I said, I'll try and park on the west side or east side of the truck stop up there, or the building, or the, you know. She pulled in, I recognized her when she pulled in.
Did you know what her vehicle was?
No, I didn't know what it was, but she pulled up right alongside of me, looked at me and smiled. And I knew it, I knew her smile, I knew it was her.
Yep.
And we got out, gave her a hug, and we talked and talked.
How long?
Oh, for a while. And I said, you want to stay at the hotel tonight? I don't know what she was doing. I said, well, why not? Because her son was going to take care of this critters.
Right.
I said, yeah. She said, I finally talked her into it.
Okay.
Went to the hotel, we talked for quite a while, just
Now, which motel? Tell me.
the Western or whatever it was.
Okay.
Whatever that one is, over there by the trust.
Yep.
You know which one it is.
Yep.
We ended up in bed together.
Yep.
Got up early, I can't remember.
So I wasn't far off. When I say you're sweet on her, you're sweet on her.
Oh, I was, yeah, not, but you know what I'm trying to tell you.
Absolutely.
If she wouldn't have come, I probably, if she would have said, no, we don't want to meet, that probably would have been the end of it. But she came and she met. And
What the hell?
Yeah. And like I said, years ago, I know you probably heard this, I told it how I got to know her. And then after I quit up over the road, I still kept in contact with her every 3, 4, 5 years. I called her. You try to remember in May. Okay. Say, hey, happy birthday, how it's going. And like I say, I don't know when the last time was I called her before this, but like I say, I did not know that she wasn't working anymore. And she told me she hadn't been working for 3 years after we got talking. And I didn't know about Marv having heart surgery and all that other stuff. So it was 5, 6 years, at least before I had called her, the last time I had called her before.
So no affairs with her?
No.
But stayed in contact every
Stayed
so on.
every,
Happy birthday.
yeah,
So that's accurate.
yes.
Okay.
Every 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
And then we spent that first night together.
So just so there's no misconfusion, the first time you ever had sex with Kathy was that first time you met with her at the truck stop and then went to the
Yes.
hotel?
Yes.
And that was 5, 6
6 weeks, maybe longer, I don't remember.
Fair enough. 5, 6 weeks, plus or minus.
6 weeks.
We know it's a lot of time.
But May, we thought it was around the 4th of July.
Sure.
somewhere.
But would you concede though with some of the, and I think you did today, with some of those bills, you know, some of the credit card statements?
No, I really didn't know
Okay.
I didn't know about the big credit card bill. That I did not know.
Okay. But there are some bills there's some phone stuff, there's some phone records and with some of the bills and stuff, it could have been a little earlier in June.
I think you guys are talking about two different things. You're talking about the default and
Yeah.
bills. He's talking about, there's some receipts and records from credit card statements when you guys are meeting.
When you're paying for stuff. When you're paying for stuff.
Where Kathy was paying for it.
Yes.
It was in
Yeah.
June.
Okay, in June, then that's when
And that's possibly be that early in June.
June, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you had coffee first,
Yeah.
whatever, had a little lunch, whatever. Morning, noon, or night is this? Midday?
Midday, something.
Okay. Do you pay for,
I paid for the room.
okay, but you pay for,
I paid for the wood coffee or whatever.
sure,
I don't
got
know.
it, all right. And then you guys stayed overnight. Did you park the next day?
Yes.
Or did you stay together?
No. I think we parted right shortly after, before checkout time was. I can't remember what, that was on I think that was on a Sunday? I don't remember.
Okay.
But we only stayed the one night. That was it.
So let me just fast forward, so you had that, and then you guys stayed in communications pretty regularly.
Yes, after that we did, yes.
Okay. And then how often were you meeting after that?
Usually every weekend.
So was it the next weekend then when you guys got together?
Yeah.
After that first time?
Yeah.
So
I think it was.
okay, that's fine. At what point, Jim, do you find out about, or how does the casino story, how does that come about? Be honest with me.
We just figured it'd be better than saying we met and shacked up right away the first night,
And who thought of that?
I don't remember if I came up with it or Kathy came up with it.
And just tell me, that sounded better to you guys because why?
I don't know.
I mean, if you got two consenting adults, you go to the motel, why do you have to have a story?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why.
And you don't remember whose story that was?
No, I don't. If I mentioned something that way or she mentioned something
Okay.
that way.
But there was an agreement between you two
Yes,
that
would be the story.
this is the story.
If they, whatever, that was the agreement between us.
Okay. This has got ripples.
Yeah.
That one little story
I know.
really wrapped her up. Because you got guys that are working this case. I mean, you know what we do for a living, right?
I know.
And you knew that we were gonna just keep coming back because we knew it was bogus.
I know.
All right.
And I know the first time you talked to me, you figured I killed her. I know you did. I could just feel it. I could feel it that you said in your mind, he did something to her. Well, I'm sorry, that's the feeling I got. I'm honest with you.
Sure.
Just the way,
I'm honest with you, I want you to be honest with me.
just sort of the way it was going. I had that, they think I did something to her. And I don't care, they charge me for whatever they want, but I did not do anything to her.
From today, on the stand, you've been lying, I'll just say to the investigation, essentially you've been lying to Roman and I for a long time. Today you lied on the stand to the judge, the court, okay?
Is that accurate, Jim?
Yeah, well, I lied about how we met and,
Did you know that lying to us was wrong and illegal?
yeah, in a way, I mean,
Didn't feel good.
no, but
Your conscience told you it was wrong, right?
yeah,
What do you teach the kids?
Tell them the truth, tell them the truth, tell them the truth.
First day of kindergarten.
And I know that the lie is worse than the cover-up is always worse than the lie.
Did you know that lying in court
I don't,
day after?
I probably end up in jail for that.
Okay, did you know that that was wrong?
Yes, I did.
And did you know that it was illegal to lie to the court after being put under oath?
Yes, I did. I answered 10 questions.
Why did you do it?
I don't know. Just to try and keep our story straight.
Once you go down that, you chose that path, and there was kind of a point of no return.
I know.
And you just felt like you had to keep going with it.
I know.
All right. She didn't want to leave her children.
I'm sure she was. I don't think
She loved those kids. She did not want to check out on Wes. There was a bond between those two.
Oh, I know that.
And you could tell me more about that. That is, they don't have to be around. I can read words and it's palpable to me. I can feel it.
Or asked him, I know I asked him to come and help, and he said, I don't have any gas in the trunk. I said, okay, well,
That's very consistent.
if mom calls, listen on the phone, you know, I don't know, if calls you on your phone, he had his own phone. I said, call me, let me know. And I did ride around out there, I can't remember where all I went, I took you guys, I may have even missed some roads. And
Maybe you did.
as far as that Shell station, hey, I may have went around the backside and came up. I don't remember.
Jim.
That day, you were emphatic about where you were when you arrived at that station. We proved you wrong. Yes, you did.
Just bear with me. Don't get all worked up on me.
Okay.
We proved you wrong.
Okay.
It doesn't feel good to be proved wrong when you're in your seat with what everything is going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That didn't happen, Jim. You know what I'm saying?
What didn't happen?
You weren't at that station.
I swear, I went by the station and didn't see anybody or anything.
Well, you can see a certain amount of road with the cameras on.
You swear to God I was by there. By that station.
It didn't happen, Joe. That didn't happen. Because video doesn't lie, Jim. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I swear to God I was down that road. I swear to God I was. And I was by the casino.
You weren't in front of that station.
I probably, if you
Right,
said no,
when you drove in,
I know.
when you drove in, and you said you were right there, I stopped and I looked in,
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
You weren't there.
Okay, I wasn't there. But I was around it that night day. I was running like a chicken with his head chopped off looking.
How much do you want to help yourself out?
I want to help myself, but I want to help Kathy way more.
Well, let me get to that part. Well,
Way more.
what do you want to do for her?
I'm telling the truth.
Because she told the lies, just like you told some lies.
Then I covered up for her.
And she says she covered for you.
She covered
Because
for
you
me.
both were,
Yep.
you were both complicit with that.
Yep. Yep.
And you can't change that. You
No.
can't erase that. You can't make
No,
that
I
go
know.
away.
That made it go away. Oh, but the truth was what I told you now.
And if she is truly not involved in anything other than
The cover-up.
the cover-up,
That's all she was
then
involved in.
you need to tell us what the heck happened so that we can clear her and get her.
Honest to God, Jay, she had nothing to do with it.
But how do I know that? You have to.
I know.
You got to explain.
I don't know how I can.
You got to explain some stuff so that we can prove that.
Show that. Explain what? Tell me what?
Vicky's dead.
Yes.
She's not here.
She's not here. I don't know if she's dead. I don't.
You mind if I explain to Jim about Kathy?
I don't.
Just one moment, because
Jay, I don't. If I say she's dead, then they're going to say, well, he did it. He knows she's dead.
you lied on the stand today.
I did that, I'll admit that, but I do not know where she is. So help me God.
She doesn't go poof.
I know she,
You were the last one to see her. You were the last one with her.
No.
You were the last one to hear her.
I don't know, if I knew, I'd tell you right now. I'd tell you right now because I don't want Kathy in trouble.
You don't want to be caught. You didn't want to be caught today on the stand,
And you lied.
and you lied.
All right.
You don't want to be caught now.
Okay, I'll admit, I
You
killed her. There, I killed her. Kathy had nothing to do with it.
Tell me what you did.
I don't know. I don't know where she is. I
Tell me
don't
how
know.
you killed her. No.
I don't know how I killed her.
Tell me how you.
I didn't. So I can't tell you.
Did you?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
Well, did you choke her?
No, I didn't choke her. I don't know where she is.
Was she alive when she got into your truck?
She never got in the truck with me.
Did you assist her with something?
No, I didn't assist her with anything.
Did she ask you to do something?
No, she didn't ask me to do anything to her or for her. I don't know where she is.
Was
No.
it an accident?
No, honestly, God, I did not hurt that woman that day. I did not do anything
Don't
to
call
her.
her that
Oh,
woman.
that woman, okay, I'm sorry. I did not,
Justifies her.
I did not hurt my wife that day. I did nothing to her. Nothing that night.
That's that. You're under arrest for killing your wife.
I know I am.
So let's fix it.
I can't fix it because
Yeah,
I
you
don't.
can. Because you know what? We can't change what happened. What did you say once? I think you said, we can't change what happened. All you can do is carve a little something for yourself in the future.
That wasn't me. I didn't never say.
I think I proved you wrong on the stand today. I have a recording of you saying that.
Yes, you did.
I have a recording of you saying what I just said you said. So here's what I'm gonna tell you, Jim. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. We're past that.
I know we're past that.
And
In a moment, I'm telling you right now, I know I lied to you before, I lied to Jay before, and I'm swearing to God right now. But yeah, I know you were gonna say you swore to God before you lied.
Yeah, right.
But I do not know where she is. If I knew, I would tell you right now. I do not. I know you don't believe me. Well, then that's the best I can do is tell you I don't know because I don't. We didn't really discuss anything coming over here.
no. Well,
We didn't.
I had no reason to.
What your lie came up.
Yes, we said, make sure we would tell a same story about how we met. That we did.
Yeah, when was the last time you said that?
Maybe coming over here, I don't know.
Jim, what would happen to a body if you put it in those sludge ponds where you worked?
I don't know, we'd probably never find it. Only, I wasn't working at the sludge ponds.
I know. But if you
But
put
you
a
had
body in
access.
there,
I had access, but it wouldn't disappear.
do you think the police can prove you killed your wife if we don't have a key body?
I've heard people being convicted without finding the body, so I assume yes.
Right.
Heard about it on TV, I mean, you hear about it, I assume yes.
Yeah, well, the answer is yes, you're right. We can prove you killed your
Yes,
wife.
you can probably prove.
So the only thing I want is her body, that's it.
Well, but if I could shit her body, I'd give it to you. I don't know where it is.
Oh, that's colorful. You wanna shit your wife's body?
Oh, you know.
Colorful.
All right,
Hold on, we started with that woman. Now you're gonna shit her fucking body, huh? That's the route you're gonna go. This is your wife that you love.
No, that
This
isn't
is your
the
wife
way.
that you love for 24 years.
That isn't the way I meant it.
One that was disabled
Okay.
because she had mental health issues.
Okay, I said it.
Yeah, you
If
can't take it back.
I can't take it back, no.
What you did, you can't take back.
I didn't do anything to her, and I don't know where she is.
You were with her alone for.
I was alone with her
8 hours.
for I don't know how many hours.
And you were
And I don't know what time West left.
Well, I mean, let's be really conservative, 6 hours then, 6 to 8 hours.
I don't know. I was alone with her,
And you were the last to see her.
and I was last to see her. Yes.
Last to
You
hear
were
her.
the last to see her alive.
Well, West would have been.
No, you said he wasn't
Oh,
there.
no.
He's smoking dope at his buddy's house.
Okay, yeah, he
So
wasn't
you
there.
were the last to see her alive, right?
I was the last and hear her. No, I wasn't the last to see her alive.
Well, now-
Now listen, just let me explain. Yeah, technically I was the last, I suppose, but I was sleeping and Wes was still home. So Wes would have been the last one to see her alive.
No, you've said many times that Wes left to his friend before you went to bed.
No, he didn't. No, ask Wes, he was, no.
I didn't.
said he left, and you were left alone with your wife. And you said that. And I'll play it for you. I was sleeping.
He leaves after supper.
He did not leave right after supper, no, he
Well,
didn't. Well, whatever he said, okay. We just conceded that Wes was not home when he went missing. All right. He wasn't home. So therefore you were the last to see her alive. Last to see her alive, yes.
Okay, and he comes in the driveway at what time-ish?
4:30, I don't know.
And when he comes in at 4, you tell him, I've been looking for Mom for an hour to an hour and a half.
I said about an hour.
Hour, Jim.
Okay, hour to an hour.
An hour and a half. I mean, that takes us to 2:30. Right?
It wasn't 2:30 when I got it.
You're looking, well, I'm just going off.
I know what I said.
How long do you think, how far do you think your wife could possibly walk at the time she disappeared? City blocks. How many city
I mean,
blocks?
you estimate, because you knew her best.
Estimate. City blocks. How many city blocks do you think she can walk at the time she went to, in April of 2013? How many?
I don't know. She could maybe walk 10 city blocks, she could maybe only walk 3. You know,
So 3 to 10 blocks.
you know, there's times she could walk really good and
No,
then fine.
no, that's not what I asked you. I asked in April of 2013.
Okay, anywhere 10 blocks, 12 blocks, she could have.
3 to 12.
3 to 10 or 12.
3 to 10 or 12. How many country blocks is that?
I got no idea.
Do you need water?
No, I don't know.
I'm gonna go get water.
I don't know.
Give us a minute, okay?
I'm gonna get water. I just want to look at it. It's a number for you to get. Your phone number.
Phone number that I used is up there. 715-223. 4125.
That's a home number?
Yep.
For the record, the entirety of Exhibit 111 was played into the record, Your Honor.
Special Agent Jurgis, now that you've reviewed the contents of Exhibit 111, does that appear to fairly and accurately depict the interview you had with Mr. Prokopovitz on May 8th of 2019?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Also present with you during that interview was Sergeant Ehrenstein.
Yes, he was.
Just a few follow-up points on the interview, Special Agent.
Are you done with the smart board?
Yes, sorry,
Why
Judge.
don't you move it back, and then defense counsel can see the witness.
Just a few questions on the interview, Special Agent Jurgis. There was a point in the interview we heard the defendant refer to Victoria Prokopovitz as that woman. Is that something that you consistently heard throughout this investigation?
For years.
Was that typically how the defendant would refer to Victoria?
Yes.
And why was that of note to you?
That term and that tense was disassociation. He was emotionally detaching himself from his wife, who he claimed he loved. He was clearly emotionally detaching himself from either the circumstances, the experience, or that person in his life. And that was remarkable.
Subsequent to the interview of Mr. Prokopovitz on May 8th and Kathy Friday on May 8th, did you and Sergeant Ehrenstein also speak with Ms. Friday on May 10th of 2019?
Yes, we did.
And in part of that conversation, did the topic of the casino story come up during that interview?
Yes.
And specifically, was Ms. Friday asked whether her and Mr. Prokopovitz discussed that story on the way that morning to testify at the proceeding,
Yes.
and what was indicated.
They had both discussed it with each other inside the car during the car ride to court, that's what they would agree to say during court.
And by agreed to say, they agreed to say the story they had come up with respect to how they began a relationship.
That's correct.
Just a few more areas. We heard some testimony with respect to some various drone and aerial searches that were done at the Coonish Road property. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Is that something that you were in charge of overseeing?
Yes.
In addition to overseeing those aerial searches, were you yourself also in the air?
Yes, I was inside the airplane.
And were you photographing the area around 5118 Coonish Road?
I took approximately 111 images.
And what sort of radius around the property were you flying in?
We started at a 3-mile nautical air mile radius. We flew 2 miles, 1 mile, and then directly above the farm at 5118 Coonish Road in the town of Pittsfield, Brown County, Wisconsin.
So essentially from the air, you documented a 3-mile radius around the Coonish Road residence?
Yes.
And do you have specialized training and experience with respect to conducting those sorts of investigations?
Yes, I do.
And what, I guess, areas are you looking for in photographing those scenes?
So I was looking for anything that was unordinary, that stuck out, that you could see, and I was specifically paying attention for any clandestine graves.
In addition to clandestine graves, were you also looking for instance, clothing that Vicky was reported to be wearing or any human remains?
Yes, had been informed through the course of the investigation that she was allegedly wearing a white colored jacket at that time. So I was looking for any kind of light colored garment in anywhere on the ground while flying that mission.
And I sort of glossed over that comment. What is a clandestine grave?
So a clandestine grave is a secret grave that would be created with human involvement.
Is that something that you're still able to see in reviewing the ground, even from a distance in the air?
Yes.
And did you subsequently review those hundreds of images and recordings that you took from the plane on that day?
Yes, I did. I reviewed all of the images that I captured, in addition to all of the images and recordings from the DCI drone pilot, as well as the Wisconsin State Patrol drone pilot.
Again, is that something you have specific training and experience with respect to identifying those topics from aerial photographs?
Yes, I do.
You have done so in the past?
Yes, I have.
And in the 3-mile radius surrounding that Coonish Road residence, did you make any observations of note?
Nothing related to this case, no.
And in your training experience, are there occasions where the absence of evidence is itself evidence to you?
Exactly. That's precisely right.
Okay. And you mentioned in addition to your images, you also reviewed the other images. We heard from Special Agent Welsh and the trooper from the State Patrol. You reviewed those images as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you noted nothing in those images?
Correct.
The time of year that that search was conducted, that was early May of 2019?
Correct.
Was that done intentionally because that was around the time of Vicky's disappearance?
Correct.
There are trees and wooded areas in that area, is that correct?
Yes, there are.
Was the coverage at that time of year significant?
The canopy was bare So other than pine trees, I was able to see through trees more readily, more easily, so that you could see what was underneath or below the trees.
So even from that distance, you were still able to see through the wooded areas?
Yes, I was.
Final areas, we also heard testimony regarding a waste area near 172 in the airport in Ashwaubenon. Is that an area that you visited with Sergeant Ehrenstein?
Yes, we did.
And you're familiar with that area?
Yes, I am.
Is that, we have heard them referred to as sludge ponds during the course of testimony. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is the, yes, I do recognize it.
And is that, I guess, a general map of the areas of interest with respect to this investigation?
That's correct.
And I'm showing you exhibits 113 and 114. Do you recognize those exhibits?
Yes, I do.
And do those appear to be photographs of the sludge pond area we're talking about?
From an aerial vantage point, yes.
And does that appear consistent with what you observed? You yourself were physically present at those locations?
That's correct. It distinctly shows the different cells and the dikes around those sludge ponds.
And in the course of your investigation, you're also familiar with the 5118 Coonish Road residence?
Extremely familiar.
Were you able to approximate the distance from that location to the areas depicted in exhibits 113 and 114?
I'd have to estimate it between, I don't know precisely, estimate it between 10 and 12 miles.
I'd move 112, 113, and 114.
No objection, Your Honor.
112, 113, 114 are admitted.
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
You may cross. Okay.
Special Agent Jurgis, I'm going to go back a little bit here. Now, you first got involved in this investigation in 2015?
Yes.
And maybe I didn't understand it. Were you specifically assigned to this, or how did you get in? Did you volunteer for this, or did you have to get assigned to it?
I did not volunteer for this. I was assigned this case.
And typically when DCI gets involved in an investigation of this nature, is it typical that you guys get involved because the local agency has just kind of exhausted all of their search efforts?
Sometimes that's the case, but not always.
What about this case? I thought I heard you testify that they were kind of exhausted on their search efforts. Is that right?
Yeah, they had exhausted search efforts, so they were looking for additional assistance.
So essentially you came in because they ran out of leads.
I can't say that they ran out of leads. They had just exhausted search efforts.
Okay. And the earliest point in which you were involved, was that around April of 2015?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And as part of your investigation, then you thought it'd be a good idea to go review everything that they already had at that point, correct?
Yes, I did.
And it was from there you decided that you needed to re-interview witnesses, and at this point, now we're about 2 years out, correct?
2 years after the disappearance of Mrs. Prokopovitz.
And 2 years out, you were also very actively involved in speaking with the family as well?
I was not the primary contact. Detective Ehrenstein was definitely the primary contact with the family.
But you did interview family members, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you did that more on a one-on-one, correct?
Correct.
And at this point, 2 years out, family members are still searching for answers, true?
Yes.
And emotions are still very high because Victoria's been missing for now 2 years.
They were still grief-stricken.
And in these grief that they're feeling, they really started pointing the finger at Jim, correct?
They did not.
But they started telling you things that they thought was odd that wasn't odd before, true?
I don't recall that.
Well, let's talk about, like, Marsha Lawrence talked about in 2012 when she saw her mom on the bed. At the time she left, she didn't find it odd, but now when she was talking to you in 2015, now it seemed odd, true?
I think both instances were odd to Ms. Lawrence.
So, but this is a woman who didn't see her mom for a period of 6 months prior to her going missing, true?
Due to circumstances, yes.
Those circumstances were her own choosing, not because she couldn't go over and see her mother.
That'd be accurate.
That's the same thing with Stacey Deer. She chose not to go see her mom. It's not that circumstances prevented her from going.
Correct.
Okay. And you testified about these databases that you looked for and you looked at. When you did these databases, was the search primarily on Victoria Prokopovitz's name, or was there any parameters outside of that?
So in various searches, I utilized 3 different names. I used Prokopovitz, Allard, and Edges.
So what if Victoria was using a name that wasn't one of those 3? Would have come up in your database?
Potentially, it could have.
Potentially.
It would have been prohibitive, but it could have.
So if she picked a name such as, Lucy Smith, it wouldn't have popped up, true?
Not necessarily accurate.
And these databases also didn't do any sort of facial recognition or anything of that nature where she would have popped up on a camera, correct?
We did not do facial recognition.
There is technology such as that, but it wasn't utilized in this case because Victoria Prokopovitz wasn't a person that was very technology savvy, true?
We knew her likeness, so it was unnecessary to do facial recognition.
Meaning if she was using a different name or a different person, using a different person's name, you wouldn't have searched specifically for that, correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So if, let's say again, she uses the name like Lucy Smith, and I'm just picking that name out of, just for sake of the question, and she was in, say, Texas in a Walmart and she was photographed, you wouldn't know if that was Victoria Prokopovitz if she used a different name based on the fact that she was just caught on camera, correct?
That's not true.
So if she was caught on camera, she would be recognized?
If she utilized the name Lucy Smith, there are other means that potentially would flag her identity based on the other instruments that she's utilizing, the other people that she's associating with, the other places she may be using as a residence. Some of these things are very powerful, and they cross-reference with each other, or they attach to each other at certain times, especially with credit bureau information.
Okay, but what would be the cross-reference, though? If she's using a different name in a different state, how would you cross-reference that that's actually Victoria Prokopovitz, I guess? I'm just a little bit more curious.
Yeah, so it depends upon, if you're saying she was in a Walmart utilizing an instrument of payment and say it wasn't cash, if that instrument of payment is utilized with any sort of piece of identifying information that was positively linked to Mrs. Prokopovitz, it could potentially identify her, even though she was using an alias name.
Okay, but if she just assumed this person, and she didn't use anything that linked herself to Victoria Prokopovitch, didn't use the same social security number, didn't use anything that linked her to her past, and she was just Lucy Smith in Texas, you couldn't find her, correct?
There are so many variables to that. I don't know if I can posit 100 with 100% absolute positivity. I can't agree with that.
Okay, it would be a lot more difficult. That would be the case, correct? It's not 100% she couldn't be found, but it would make it supremely more difficult for you to link this individual to somebody in Texas.
That would be a hindrance.
Okay. What if she was homeless? Would that make it more difficult to find her? If she never made a residence, she just drifted?
That would be difficult, but it's not impossible to find homeless people, especially with the outreach that was done and the databases that she is positively entered into.
And moving a little bit forward, the walkthrough and the drive that you were on with Jim, this was about 3 years later?
Yes.
Okay. And he's driving through, and we saw the video where he thought he went through the gas station, but it's not certain that he went through that exact route that's shown on the exhibit right behind you, correct?
He was absolutely positive about his route. When he drove through there, in the recording, it actually shows his demeanor, his behavior, and his actions that he actually said he did on that day to signify that he did do that and that was the exact route. He was positive.
But there's a lot of times when you interview Jim, and even on this interview, he kept saying, I don't remember, correct?
He intentionally said those things at times, yes.
That was your interpretation that he's intentionally saying those things, correct?
There were things that he sounded very convincing, and he was absolutely lying.
Your estimation that he's absolutely lying, correct?
Not my estimation, that's based on facts.
Okay. When you were asked to talk to Kathy Friday and Jim, there's been some kind of standing around the idea that the lie was somehow related to Victoria's disappearance, but the lie was really about how they met at the casino, correct?
The lie goes to the motive as to what the circumstances with this case are.
Okay. You guys keep saying motive, but there has to be some sort of intent in this case, correct?
Correct.
And going back to the question of the lie that Kathy Friday stated was about her chance encounter with Jim at this casino, true?
Yes.
The statement that she signed indicated that she lied about that and that only.
Yes.
The same thing with Jim. The statement that Jim said, I lied about, was the encounter with Kathy at the casino, true?
That and several other lies.
We just watched the video. You were involved in the interview. And in the video, Jim admitted to lying, so he knew it was wrong, but he kept saying, I didn't do anything to his wife.
Those were his words.
And he said that he couldn't tell you where the body is because he didn't do anything to her. Correct?
That's what he said.
Okay. And it was brought up that they talked about it in the car before they went to court. They were both living in Curtis, correct? at that time?
Yes, at the farm at Ms. Friday's residence.
And Curtis, Wisconsin, it's between Eau Claire and Wausau, so that's a little over 100, 150 miles?
Yes,
So it's not uncommon to believe that they drove to the court together?
they absolutely drove to court together. They
Okay.
both admitted that.
Now, part of the transcript, there was a question about the radius in which people are searching, and I think in the transcript that you read, there was a discussion about 6 and 7 mile distance, but really the radius that was looked at was no larger than 3 miles, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that was
Professionally,
that was
yes.
misstated in the evidentiary hearing that it was 6, 7 miles. It was really about 3 miles was the furthest that people searched.
Those were estimations.
Okay. And you were also talked about these phones, and you knew that there was these second phones, correct?
Yes,
Now, you and Detective Ernstein did a very thorough job of looking at every stone, but neither one of you investigated these second phones or the lines or the telephone calls that occurred on those phones?
no, we investigated those.
I thought I understood Detective Aronson said that you guys did not look at those second phones and the phone calls.
In the sense that we confirmed that they had them, they admitted that they had them, and that they were utilizing to communicate with each other exclusively. That was part of the investigation.
Okay, did you go back and look at the records to see when they got those phones?
No, we only looked at the cellular telephone records that were supplied to us.
And were any of those cellular telephone records supplied for those second phones to determine when those phone calls were started?
It was May of 2013.
May of 2013 is the only record you have showing when phone calls between Kathy Friday and James Prokopovitch started.
On those devices.
On any device, was there ones that you had that showed before May of 2013?
No,
So your investigation has indicated that then the only telephone records you have between Kathy Friday and James Prokopovitch happened after Victoria Prokopovitch went missing on April 26, 2013.
yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, the first time that Jim and Kathy actually physically met up was sometime around June 21st of 2013?
I don't know when they initially met up.
Okay. You don't recall that as part of the investigation at your current recollection, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any evidence that Jim and Kathy Friday started their relationship prior to Victoria being missing?
Family statements.
Family statements, but no hard evidence.
That circumstantial evidence.
Okay. When you say family statements, are you relying on the statement of Jason Friday?
Yes,
And Jason Friday relied on the statement from his sister, correct?
I believe he did, yes.
And I thought that Jennifer Friday indicated that the only record she knew of Kathy and Jim having contact was in May of 2013.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. I said I believed that I thought Jennifer Friday indicated that the only contact that Jim and Kathy Friday had started in May of 2013.
I believe she was referring to the records that she was looking at.
So she just merely threw out the idea that they had this relationship prior to April of 2013?
I don't know what their discussions were with each other about her specific knowledge about that.
I've heard a lot about this corroborating evidence that you have to verify the statement based on the evidence that you received. But it doesn't sound like you corroborated this evidence that they started their relationship prior to Victoria Prokopovitz being missing. True?
There were several statements by different people that stated they believed they had familiarity, contact, and a minimum of a friendship preceding April 2013.
It's not illegal to have a friendship with a woman who's with another man who's married, correct?
It's not illegal.
And it's not hard evidence that they had a actual physical relationship prior to Victoria Prokopovitz being missing, true?
It's circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial based on you're hearing these rumors that they had one, but you don't have any corroborating evidence.
We were unable to corroborate that with any sort of documents.
You still have the photographs of the Georgia Pacific site?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Special Agent Jurgis, these are really the only two pictures you have of that site, correct?
Here today?
Yes, or anywhere else?
We have other pictures.
You have other pictures of the pond area?
Yes.
Okay. You went physically out to these pond area, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Mr. Janzo, do you expect much longer?
A little bit, Your Honor, if you want to take a break.
Yeah, we're pretty well way overdue. So jurors, you can take a 15-minute recess. Jurors ready? Yes, sir. You can bring them in. Thank you. You may be seated. You may continue your cross.
Thank you, Your Honor.